Forget everything you think you know about old military rifles being outdated, relics that belong on a dusty wall. In 2026, the smartest shooters are discovering that some of the most honest, dependable and character-filled firearms on the market are not the latest polymer wonders, but the steel and walnut veterans sitting quietly on surplus racks. These rifles were built in an era when engineers cared more about durability than marketing slogans, and today they still deliver real performance for sporting, hunting, and responsible home defense roles. This project is about cutting through the hype and looking at 5 specific models that continue to prove their worth on modern ranges, in thick brush, and in the hands of people who value reliability over fashion. We will talk about how they feel to operate, what kind of stopping power they realistically offer, how easy they are to live with, and whether their current prices actually make sense. Some of them are rough around the edges, others are surprisingly refined, but all of them carry stories you can feel the moment you work the action. If you have ever wondered whether a century-old design can still hold center mass on today's targets, this review series is going to answer that question with honesty rather than nostalgia. The first rifle on our list is the Turkish Mauser M1938, a firearm that for years lived in the shadow of German collector pieces, yet quietly delivered the same mechanical backbone. Holding one of these in your hands feels like gripping a bridge girder shaped. Into a rifle. The large ring Mauser 98 action is the heart of this platform, and that design has become the blueprint for countless modern hunting rifles. Chambered in 8mm Mauser 98 action is the heart of this platform. Chambered in 8mm Mauser, the cartridge brings serious stopping power for large game and still performs beautifully on steel at distance. Objectively, the rifle is long, very long, with its 29-inch barrel making it more of a field piece than a tight quarters tool. The controlled round feed system is a masterpiece of reliability, grabbing the cartridge the instant it leaves the magazine and guiding it home with absolute authority. From a personal standpoint, the recoil is stout but honest, the kind that reminds you this was designed for real work rather than comfort. Prices in 2026 generally sit between $400 and $500, which is remarkable considering you are buying a true Mauser action with battle heritage. The weak points are usually in the aging stocks that can show cracks around the tang, and the overall length can feel awkward on modern ranges, but as a budget entry into serious bolt actions, it remains hard to beat. Sliding naturally to the Yugoslav M24 47's Mauser, this rifle represents what happens when a nation rebuilds older designs with genuine pride. These were not rushed refurbishments but careful arsenal overhauls intended to keep the rifles in fighting condition for decades. Mechanically, it uses the intermediate length Mauser action, slightly shorter and stiffer than the German pattern, which translates into a smoother and quicker bolt throw. Many shooters are shocked the first time they experience one, because the action often feels better than rifles costing triple the price. Accuracy calmly sits around 2 to 3 MOA, with decent ammunition, more than enough for hunting or range work. Personally, I find the 2-stage military trigger surprisingly clean, and the balance of the rifle feels more lively than the Turkish counterpart. Market value in 2026 hovers around $450 to $600, depending on condition and matching numbers. The downside is parts compatibility, since standard 988 accessories rarely fit without modification, and the Yugoslav walnut stocks can be heavy. Still, for someone wanting a shooter rather than a museum piece, this might be the smartest Mauser investment available. From there we move into semi-automatic territory with the Chinese SKS Type 56, a rifle that has earned a reputation for functioning in conditions that would make modern carbines cry for maintenance. Chambered in 7.62x39, it feeds from a fixed 10-round magazine and thrives on inexpensive ammunition that can be found almost anywhere. The chrome-lined bore is a major technical advantage, especially for shooters who run older corrosive loads or who simply want a rifle that forgives less than perfect cleaning habits. Objectively, the machining is not pretty and the wood stocks are utilitarian, but reliability is almost boringly consistent. Accuracy usually lands around 3 to 4 MOA, which is not precision rifle territory yet perfectly adequate for practical roles. On a personal level, the SKS has a charm that modern rifles lack, especially with the integral folding bayonet giving it undeniable character. Prices remain one of its strongest arguments, generally between $450 and $650. For clean examples, far below many modern semi-autos. The main drawback is the temptation people feel to modify them with cheap accessories, something that often ruins the balance that made the rifle good in the first place. The fourth rifle brings us to Soviet territory with the Mosin-Nagant M91, 1/30th a design, as rugged as a farm tool and just as dependable, the 7.6. The 7.6 2x54R cartridge delivers energy comparable to modern 308 loads, and even though the action feels crude, it is nearly impossible to break. The interrupter ejector system was engineered to keep the rimmed cartridge feeding under the worst imaginable conditions, and decades later it still works exactly as intended. Objectively, the trigger is heavy and the safety awkward, yet the rifle continues to put rounds where they need to go. Personally, I have strange affection for the way the bolt feels, like operating a piece of industrial equipment rather than a sporting arm. Ammunition availability keeps this rifle relevant, with both budget plinking rounds and serious hunting loads still easy to find. Current prices usually range from $300 to $450. Higher than in the old days, but still affordable. The biggest limitation is accuracy, often described jokingly as minute of barn door, yet many individual rifles surprise their owners when paired with the right ammunition. Rounding out the group is the Swiss K11, the understated sibling of the famous K31, and a masterclass in precision manufacturing. The straight pull action feels unlike anything else, allowing rapid follow-up shots without breaking cheek weld, and the build quality borders on luxurious compared to other surplus rifles. Chambered in 7.5 Swiss, the cartridge was designed for accuracy from the start, and many K11 rifles still deliver 1 to 2 MOA despite being nearly a century old. Objectively, the rifle is long, and the ammunition is not as common as 308 or 7.6 2x39, yet the shooting experience makes those inconveniences easy to forgive. From a personal perspective, the K11 feels more like a gentleman's target rifle than a battlefield tool, with smoothness that almost spoils you for traditional bolt actions. Prices in 2026 typically fall between $500 and $700, representing excellent value considering the craftsmanship involved. The only real negatives are the length and the need to source specialized ammunition or begin hand loading. Looking across these 5 rifles, it becomes clear that surplus firearms are not simply cheap alternatives, but different paths to the same goal. Each one reflects the priorities of the nation that built it, whether that was raw durability, ease of mass production, or surgical precision. None of them are perfect, yet all of them offer more soul than most modern catalog options. If you are willing to accept a few quirks, they deliver reliable performance and genuine stopping power for sporting use at prices that still make sense. The surplus market will not stay this friendly forever, and every year more of these rifles disappear into private collections. If this project helped you see these classics in a new light, join the conversation with the Scoper 90 Degrees community. Share your own experiences. 90 Degrees community. Share your own experiences and drop the questions you want answered in the next episode.